and welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and today we go through sector number 448 as we talk a little bit about the Snyder Cut. It's going to be a spoiler-free review at the very, very end of the podcast, but everything in between will be a lot of video game news and comics this week especially. I have, as co-host this week, returning back from an episode that we all did with Bobby, and this week Macio is in the co-host chair. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me, Dan. What up, Brokettes? It's your boy Mace, back at it again to drop some hot takes.
I always appreciate you coming on, and now being as a part of the show is awesome, especially since you are very much plugged into the video game talk, since we covered that last time with the Xbox Series X and S and the PlayStation 5 with Bobby. So that was all video games, and we do have a funny topic and headline that you brought up and added to the show notes, which was awesome, and I really appreciated that addition because it does mix the DC universe with gaming. So let's jump right into the first headline this week. Indie game developer Jason Rohrer has created an NFT auction using artwork that he commissioned from other people. NFTs are not something I had heard of up until this week. Had you been familiar at all over what this is and what they're trying to sell people?
Yeah, this NFT stuff has been blowing up recently. I'm not 100% locked in with it, but it's going insane. I've seen artists selling, I want to say it was like System of a Down was selling a album through NFTs. Artists are making crazy amounts of money. Grimes sold some like a single through NFT. But it basically boils down to, imagine if you sold like the Mona Lisa. It's like selling the Mona Lisa in digital form, where you're saying that this is a one of one digital. Now, obviously, it's digital. It's on a computer. So I can, if it's art, if it's a picture, I could get a copy of that. Anybody could get a copy of it. You could get a copy of it. I could just right click, copy and paste, and I have the photo. It's a way to say that I have the certified number one of one of whatever it is. So to me, it doesn't really make sense. And for the astronomical prices that people are making on this shit, a digital copy of something, but saying, stamping, hey, this is certified one of one on it, and then that going for hundreds of thousands of dollars is insane, especially when you got guys like Jason Rohrer that's not even selling his art.
Mm-hmm. I guess the way he was looking at it is, I commissioned people, therefore I can do what I want with the artwork. But NFTs being so new, I think there's a lot of gray area there as to who really owns that particular piece. If you do a commission for someone, I feel like you would have to sign off. That's why sometimes when I commission artwork, I will ask the artist, do I get the rights to also put this on t-shirts or on, and they're like, yeah, you can do whatever you want with it. But with NFTs, it feels like they're going to have to now draw up contracts that say, if I commission a piece from you, I have the right to NFT it as well. And I think that's going to, if this ends up blowing up like it currently is, and if it's still a thing a year from now, I think it's going to be something that will have to be in contracts moving forward.
Yeah, look, it's getting almost out of hand already. And it almost looks like just a way for people to money launder, because the amount of money some of these things is going. I want to say I seen an article where it said some artist named Beeple sold something for like $20 million. A digital copy of something, stamping it, saying it's a one of one, millions of dollars, just straight up, which is, it doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm also not a collector of anything digital or physical. So like, imagine Dan, like you putting that cover that you had made, the Killing Joke one with Captain Marvel, and you put that up as an NFT and you sold that. It wasn't even yours. Like, you didn't draw it. You purchased it. You had it commissioned, but you put that up and that goes for fucking 50 grand. Like that'd be a nice little lick. You paid what, $500-$600 to have someone draw something up, a dope cover, but then that goes for 50,000 or 100,000.
And that's where Jason, I think, came into some trouble because artists like Ashley Birch have asked for the work to be taken down from the auction. And it's all been auctions because it is, like you said, a huge amount of money that is going into these NFTs. And so far, he has honored the artists' wishes as far as not putting their work up as NFT. Newsarama is comparing it to Bitcoin style mining because it's constantly linking your digital certificate to your, as you said, one of one owner of the digital artwork. And when I was first reading this, I'm thinking, okay, so, when I came across it, it was about a Wonder Woman piece. And I'm thinking, okay, so they own the right to that digital image no matter what. If someone reproduces it, they have to take it down or they have to pay a certain amount. And not at all. They can still reproduce the work. It's someone was comparing it to like buying, as you said, the Mona Lisa. You can own the original, but people can still make posters and prints and recreations and buy them for way less. But in this case, you're not earning money from that Mona Lisa ownership. And I'm assuming whoever owns it probably gets some rights to some of those images. But with NFTs, it really is just a digital certificate. I'm curious as to how or if people are making any money back on these. And if not, are they seeing a digital future where a digital image's ownership truly will be as valued as original artwork today?
And that's the interesting part, because right now I think it's people with big money that's laundering money for 100%. There's nothing else. Like you're buying something, $30 million, insane amounts of money. Then you got what Bobby said in last week's episode, a couple of weeks ago. It's a seller's market, and everybody is trying to flip. Everybody's trying to have that come up. So you got those people mixing in with the crowd of just people trying to, hey, I'm just trying to get my money in and out of something. So you got that whole thing mixed in, and everybody's trying to make money. Everybody's trying to find a way to make money between the mining, the Bitcoin. It's just all of that is encapsulated into this, and then they're crossing over and it's clashing. Right now, I think the biggest NFT thing that isn't like this art stuff. I don't know if you've heard of this NBA Top Shot stuff.
No, not yet.
Okay, so think basketball cards, but digital. They're digital basketball cards, but they, instead of it just being like a picture of LeBron James or a picture of Mike Trout, it's an actual moment of the game. So it's like a clip of something in the game, and you open packs of moments, and you could get a 1 of 1 or a 1 of 50 or whatever. And people are collecting quotation marks because it's all digital. And, I'm sure it's tied to some kind of an account system where obviously you can lose an account like that. It's the internet. Anybody can hack anyone. And people are flipping those for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And I guess NFTs have been around for several years, but it's not until recently where people are dropping money like crazy. And I don't know how or where all these people are getting all this money from, but this economy of NFTs has now gotten the attention of companies like Jason's or video game companies, DC, Warner Brothers, AT&T. Now they're getting into it. Wizard World announced this week that they're going to take part in NFT sales in the future. I think they're probably getting ahead of it for now, just in case it does become a thing. But as soon as you see big companies also taking ownership of this and trying to make money on it, I think that's when you see that this does have the potential to stick around.
Yeah, I think it's going to stick around if there is a way to make it feel less cheap. So, like, for example, I brought up the NBA Top Shot stuff. Well, we all know that like games like Madden or like FIFA, they have the whole Ultimate Team thing where you open up packs and you use those players in the game. What if they could NFT that? And those cards are worth something, and you can sell them for real money. And you have the 1 of 50 Messi card, or you have the 1 of 50 Tom Brady, and that's worth more than just a regular common card. It's gonna blow up if it can get into that space. I even saw some game companies, like you said, trying to get into it. What if like Nintendo can have a 1 of 1 digital art print of Zelda? Like the possibilities in this are endless, but what will come of it? How will people flip it? Will it be like a pump and dump type thing, like what we're seeing now with Pokemon cards, where people say, "Oh, I buy this now for 150, 200, 300, $1,000, and then wait 3 or 4 years and then be like, hey man, these NFTs are so crazy. Like I just sold something, and then they get the hype up so they can sell that stuff off for crazy profit. We don't know if it's going to be something that lasts in a positive way, or if it's going to be something that lasts just for people to every 5 to 10 years bring it back up, like how sports cards kind of just went dormant forever, and then it pops up and now everybody wants one.
I'm not too familiar with how even Bitcoin works out, but apparently NFT uses blockchains, which are constantly verifying an encryption. So the way I had it explained to me is kind of like computers constantly solving complex puzzles, and that it's always verifying your identity and your ownership of that NFT. And because of that, it is like digital mining, where it's taking up a lot of power, obviously a negative impact on the environment because of that. Rohrer did address this with his contribution to the impact with saying, quote, "As for wastefulness, who's to say? One person's trash is another's treasure." He also used the tree-destroying industry of small cardboard pieces like sports cards as another example of, if we're willing to excuse that, then how come we're not excusing this? And obviously he's making a ton of money on this, so he's going to come and defend it. It's just interesting how there is still a pretty major impact on the environment, even though it's all digital, and it's all because of that encryption model, that constant mining. And I think in other countries, like in China, where they are constantly mining this stuff, it heavily impacts their I think it's the billing or the electricity. There's something that's going on where they're trying to find ways to make this more streamlined as far as the amount of power it takes.
That's the problem right now with Bitcoin and all this NFT stuff, is the whole power consumption part of it. And I get where, he's coming from with the whole baseball card thing, but come on, man, like, like that's some bullshit. Just stop the cap, man. Like practically everything we do in this world is fucking up the environment, it's fucking up the planet. Like me going after this and eating a fucking piece of chicken, that's destroying the fucking planet. And the whole mining thing is destroying the planet. You go get some chicken nuggets, it comes in a cardboard box that you throw it away. That's destroying the planet. Like all of this shit destroys the planet. Okay. And that doesn't excuse the fact of having something constantly mined just to show that you own 1 of 1 of something. That is a fucking waste of energy. Like
it's really weird. Yeah.
Like something is constantly being worked on. Like if I get the 1 of 1 fucking Banksy, whatever the fuck he makes, a toaster with a banana in it, like whatever dumbass art that motherfucker be making. If I go get that shit, I don't need, like, this is the 1 of 1. Everybody knows I have the 1 of 1. That's it. Right. There's no energy getting turned working to make sure that people know that I'm the official owner of this. So his thought process behind that shit is dumb. The best case scenario you can have of it is saying that we need to get better ways to generate energy, like solar and things like that. But to say, oh man, they make a lot of paper cards, that's bad too. Like, okay, so oh man, I got robbed at gunpoint. Like, we need to do something about it. Yeah, but people break into cars too. Like, okay. Like, both of those things are wrong. Like, we need to work on both.
Yeah. I was shocked to see that DC Comics has jumped on this NFT train. They're selling digital versions of the black and white statue line, which some of these I own. I own a physical version of that statue, and they're numbered like one of 3,000 or whatever. And what they're doing is they're taking pictures of the statue and selling the picture of the statue, which blew my mind. I was like, this is really fucking weird and bizarre. The late Darwin Cook's widow, Marcia Cook, she asked DC to not use her husband's work, because he's done several of their statues, but one of the statues that was up was based on his design on his statue, and they were big on the environment, and she still is. So she said, please don't use that, because now he's contributing to that huge environmental impact. She took to Twitter to state that that was her legal notice to the company, and that if they didn't honor that she was then going to take some action against the company. A lot of these artists, yeah. And they're being forced to sign things now. And this is something I didn't put on here, but I just saw it today, where AT&T is forcing their artists to sign things that basically say that they are not owners of the artwork they produce, whether it's a statue, a comic book, whatever, and that AT&T is free to use that picture or that image to sell in NFTs without any legal action being taken against them. And this is what I was talking about, where now they're protecting themselves in a way, and they're also saying, like, if this becomes a thing, then we need to be able to say we have the rights to sell your image.
And this is the part where it gets out of hand. Mm-hmm. If I make some dope art, and then whatever it is, a poster, a sculpture, and I sell it, like, that's me. Like, whoever helps me sell it, they get their commission fees, whatever. But I make art, and then I'm making it for a comic book, and then now I have to fucking sign over my rights and say I don't own nothing, and y'all can just go ahead and make hundreds of thousands of dollars, not selling the copy, selling a digital one of one of something and saying this guy owns it now, and we just made 300,000 off of it. Like, that is some bullshit. And I applaud the wife. What was her name again?
Marcia Cook.
Marcia Cook. I applaud Marcia Cook for fighting for her late husband to make sure that this bullshit doesn't happen. Because you got the one side of it where it's just the energy consumption and the problem that's going to have on the planet, just constantly having something churning out a basic ass input to say Macio owns this. Mm-hmm. And then you got the fact that the corporations are going to corporate and just go, hey man, yeah, if you want to be on this in this comic book industry, you want to make art and you want to sell it, cool, we'll pay you, but we'll be able to do whatever the fuck we want with this forever. Like, Jesus Christ, man, you can't win. You literally can't win.
Not at all. And I think if they do continue down this road, they're going to have to come to an agreement, like they do with certain characters now, of, okay, if your character ends up becoming something in 10 years, then you own 10% of merchandise rights or whatever. Whereas before, when they were first coming up with these superheroes and comics, full ownership went on Marvel, DC, all these comic companies. But since then, people with good lawyers will make sure that in the contract, they will say, in the event that for whatever reason, this little character that I made over here becomes a movie or whatever, then I get this percentage. And that's all stuff that is worked on now. But I think if NFTs do continue down this road, then hopefully artists will get some kind of percentage of those NFTs if that becomes a thing. But I don't see this becoming cheap enough for, let's say, consumers, because there's been that comparison of, okay, we buy digital comics or digital movies, which is artwork, and we don't really own it. But there's not a collectability to it where they're saying there's a Bitcoin thing where something is constantly giving you that certificate of I own this thing. And I don't think it's ever going to get that cheap, because it's not cheap to have that kind of technology constantly running for you to own that digital piece. So I don't I don't see myself owning a cheap version of NFT in 20 years. I don't think it's going to be something that your regular consumer will have access to.
But like, what are you supposed to, like? I don't do the collecting of shit. Mm-hmm. Like, that's your realm. So you get dope ass Dark Side 12-inch statue, and then with that you take it and you put it in a glass case. It looks cool. Maybe you put some neon lights, some LEDs or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's posted up. People come in. Damn, that looks hard. Or you walk in. Man, that looks. You get enjoyment out of having it and looking at it, having it displayed.
Exactly.
What the fuck do you do with a digital photo of that? Like, do you pin it on your Twitter? and it like pops up with NFT. Daniel Sandoval owns this 101. Like, what? What do you do with it? Do you post it on your Facebook? Do you have it on your desktop, on your computer? Like, I don't get it.
You have like one of those digital portraits where to have a little certificate on the corner and it's just on at your house all the time. Yeah. Like I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of. I think it really is maybe money laundering. Like you were saying, there's more to it. There's gotta be more to it, especially if they're not making money off the reproductions.
Like imagine you have like a VR type of like real life sim. And then like you put your VR headset on and like in your digital house, you got your dark side statue that you one-on-one own or some shit. Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Any way to make some money, I'll say this.
I guess so, yeah. One of the things, though, that is absolutely going to continue to take my money is the return of the Batman Adventures Continue comic book. It was selling pretty well at my shop, where it kind of had a late start. By issue 3, then people were starting to ask for issue 1, and at that point we sold out pretty quickly, and they were no longer in print. Alan Burnett and Paul Dini are returning for another line of these comics, and also Ty Templeton, who I've enjoyed his work for many, many years, is going to be returning as well to do the interior work. First arc is going to bring in the Court of Owls into the Timverse, which is pretty huge because they are a relatively new villain when you look at the world of comics. Like, yeah, it's been maybe a decade now, but you know, in the world of comics, that's still a new character, and they've since made their debut in the video games. There's that new Arkham game that's coming out, and they're the villains in that. They're most likely going to be seen on the big screen. I'm probably in that Pattinson movie just from seeing that one trailer. I'm like, there's got to be the Court of Owls in that. There's no way it's the Riddler that's just the only villain in that, especially with the way he's talking about Gotham being corrupt and with ancient villains behind it. I'm like, all right, so it's going to be the League of Assassins or it's going to be the Court of Owls, and I think it's going to be the Court. So they're going to do an animated version of them in this comic book, and I think that's great, especially with these rumors that HBO Max still won't confirm, but everyone knows it's coming, of another season of Batman the Animated Series. They got to continue that property. They got to keep bringing out the merchandise to help promote that thing on their digital service as well.
It's very well known. I'm not like the huge comic book guy, but I love me some Timverse. Like Timverse, amazing. Batman Batman the Animated Series, Justice League. Like that's my shit. Like I love those comic book animated shows. So I'm down for that. Court of Owls, from what I know, is really cool. It's a very cool story. So I'm cool with it. Like put them in there. Anything to add to the Timverse, and I'll definitely check out maybe the trade paperback or something of this, because I always love the art of the animated series and the storyline of it is really cool. So I'm definitely down to check this out for sure.
Part of me hopes that they just adapt these comics into that TV show, because it's like, look, you already got the Red Hood in here, and that's their version of the Red Hood. Paul Dini and Alan Burnett both worked on that original cartoon, so this is literally the next season of the animated series. So why don't we just take the comics, throw it on the animated screen, and expand the story a little bit, make it, have your story beats in there so it's a proper episode, and call it a day. I know I wouldn't complain of, oh, they just took my comic and put it on. I'm like, no, they took the fucking comic and put it on the screen. This is awesome. Yeah. Now I can see it as if it just continued, as like it didn't stop. Are you getting that new Arkham game that I hear now got delayed till next year?
Probably.
Gotham Knights, I think it's called.
Yeah, Gotham Knights. Yeah, it did get pushed back to 2022. We talked about it on the last time I was on. I'm definitely checking it out. I'm very interested to see what they got going on. I know it's supposed to be a live service and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's a co-op game, So I'm looking forward to it. It's unfortunate that it got pushed back into 2022 because that's when the real Batman, or that's when the Suicide Squad game is actually supposed to drop in 2022, which makes me a little bit weary because I don't think that they would put two DC games out in the same year. So I feel like that's going to end up getting pushed back to 2023, which is unfortunate. But I'm down for some Timverse, whether it's comic book, I'll check it out. I'll check out the trade paperback, whether it's HBO Max, which has been on fire for the past 3 months, 4 months. Anything with the Timverse, I'm down to watch or check out.
And I do want to give a quick shout out as well to Neil on Twitter at nmats68. He sent over a Batmobile package. It has the Batman the Animated Series hot toy, and then it has a chrome Batmobile that is also a Hot Wheel, and he sent those over, and I really appreciate it, Neil. That was really, really nice of you. They're really awesome, and anytime they recreate the best Batmobile ever in any form, like it's just really cool to see, because when I was a kid, they made a Batmobile, but we couldn't afford the bigger one. So like my parents would get me like the little Batman, and it's like, all right, cool, like whatever. But now as an adult, like they're reprinting these things, and yeah, there's an expensive version, and it's like, all right, these adults might have some expendable income that grew up on this cartoon, so let's bring these toys back. So it was really kind of you, Neil. I really appreciate that. So shout out for the Batmobile hot toys. And Kelly's like, you mean he sent them to Leo? And I'm like, no, it has my name on there. But Leo actually does have those Batmobiles open, and I bought those for him too. So he's been playing with those. He's been watching the animated series. So the Timverse is continuing in more generations, and it's something that I think is going to be timeless. So huge thanks again. Demon Slayer, Macio, do you mess around with any current anime?
Currently, no. I haven't watched. The last anime I watched, I think probably the most recent one I saw was I saw the Broly movie in theaters.
So good.
Yeah, man, incredible. Like really fun. I love the art and everything with it. And I've been wondering, I didn't even know, but have you ever watched the anime Rurouni Kenshin?
It was on my watch list, and I was going to work my way through it. We had started Inuyasha, and I hadn't gotten to that yet.
Oh, you're going to be... That's going to take forever, man.
I actually gave up on it.
Yeah. Inuyasha is such a drag. But, Rurouni Kenshin, apparently there was a whole live action thing going on with that this entire time that I never knew about. I guess it's like a Korean or Japanese like live action that's been on, I want to say Netflix this entire time. I didn't know anything about it. So that's probably what I'm going to check out next. But what's going on with Demon Slayer?
So I checked out the anime. I saw the whole first season, and it's only because teens are into manga now. That's what they're reading as far as comics or graphic novels. Some of them will pick up the superhero stuff, but they're really into K-pop, I'm learning. They're into manga. They're into anime. That's their like animated thing right now, and that's what they're growing up on. So I'm constantly sold out of Demon Slayer. It hit Netflix. I don't know how much Netflix paid to have that streaming right, but good on them. So I was like, you know what? I better check this out because it's making the shop a lot of money. And if everyone's buying the fucking manga, then I want to read it. And I got through the whole season, and it's fine. There's not a lot of filler in the season, which I like. They're strictly adapting the manga, so there's no, all right, well, we got to wait for the book to come out, so let's just put in this bullshit story or recap. It moves along completely. So apparently the film came out October of last year in Japan, and it surpassed the Hayao Miyazaki Spirited Away to become the highest grossing Japanese film of all time. Scott from Lazy Gaming Guys was telling us for weeks, like, no, this broke the record, the all-time record. And I'm like, all right, but is it number of tickets sold or is it highest grossing? We got to talk about inflation here because that's the game that a lot of box office people like to play. And he's like, no, I think it was both. And I'm like, all right, well, let me do a little research. And sure enough, it was number of tickets sold higher than, Titanic, Avatar, Spirited Away. That blew my mind because this is a newer anime, but I guess it took Japan by storm where an animated film is literally their most tickets sold and highest grossing movie of all time. Well, that same movie is going to be making its North American debut this year on April 23rd. It's going to release digitally on June 22nd in case you don't feel safe enough yet to go into your local theater, or if your local theaters are still in shutdown, there will be a way to watch this in the future. I think it will probably have a similar impact as Dragon Ball Super, where that made a ton of money. I don't know if you remember, they kept re-releasing it in theaters through that Fathom Events thing. I think Spirit or Demon Slayer is going to have a similar success, if not higher than the Broly film.
I think the most incredible thing about it isn't the tickets. It isn't the highest grossing. It's the tickets sold in a pandemic. Now,
Yes.
I know over there in Japan, they had stuff pretty contained very well, not as much as some other Southeast Asian countries and like China, because they just pointed guns at people and told them to get inside or else. But over there, they wear masks when there's no pandemic. So I guess they pretty much had it contained. But to have that many people to go in the theaters, and I'm sure that had to have been rewatches and all the kids, but that's incredible for something to beat the tickets sold during a pandemic.
In October. Like that's when we
were. Well, it was October 2020. So not, I guess by then over there, maybe it wasn't as bad. I don't know how their seasons work in Japan. I don't know if they're on the like October and spring type deal over there.
That's true.
And honestly, like that's incredible. Even if there wasn't a pandemic, it'd still be like, wow, man, because other popular animes didn't do this. Like Pokemon didn't do this. Dragon Ball didn't do this. So your Demon Slayer, I guess it must be the hottest thing smoking over there.
I want to know how film buffs in Japan feel about this, because I see Spirited Away as like, all right, that's cinema, right? No matter, even if you're not into anime, you can look at that film and say that's a good movie. And Demon Slayer, from seeing the anime, I'm like, all right, it's an action anime. There's nothing crazy here. It's not a Miyazaki series or anything like that. So I'd be curious to see if the anime is like, Naturo or Dragon Ball, where it's like the show, a bunch of action, and it's like, film buffs over there are like, God damn it, this fucking Demon Slayer thing kicked off the Spirited Away, which is considered by many to be one of the best, not just animated films of all time, but it constantly cracks the top 100 movies of all time. So I'd be curious to get one of them on and just hear what they think.
If you think about it, though, like I've never watched it. Don't kill me, internet. I've never watched Gone with the Wind. Is that shit like really that dope? Do film buffs really be like, man, I'm so mad that Avengers is #1, most tickets, or Avatar's the highest grossing over Gone with the Wind? Like, do people really care about Gone with the Wind like that? Like, is it like?
I guess not. No.
Yeah, because I never really hear like. Even though technically I think they still have the most tickets sold, right?
Yes. Yeah, Gone with the Wind still has it.
So maybe they're just saying like, oh, okay, you made more money than Gone with the Wind, but it's a classic. People are going to watch it forever. At the end of the day, y'all still didn't sell more tickets than this. When we had less people around, like less people alive to even go watch it. And then the fact that they just kept going back and back, because that's all repeat tickets, like people just going back to watch it because there wasn't VHS, right? How old is Gone with the Wind? I feel like that came out in like the 50s.
No, there was no. I think it was during one of the world wars, and that was one of the big reasons why it also got so many tickets. Is people like that's all they could do at the time, and they would just go back, and that was how they would escape. There were no phones or computers that they can escape into. Movies were a huge source of that. So it was well before home media. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think film buffs really care. Like, if you, for the most part, film buffs, they know that most of those type of movies that are just good movies, whether it's well acted, well shot, the music's incredible, whatever it is that puts it on that upper echelon, they know that the average everyday moviegoer isn't trying to watch that shit.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's like why like romantic sex novels are like always the best selling books. It is what it is.
this week I was finally, and I don't know how much it cost Funko. I do collect Funko, not on the level of my average Funko buyer. Like I have my regulars that come into the store and I'll buy one or two from a certain series if I like the character, but there are people that will collect the full line of them. They'll get one of each and they'll make sure that they have a complete set of whatever. Funko collectors are still the thing. They're not the Beanie Babies that I thought they would be, or if they are, they've lasted way longer than I expected to. I remember 3 years ago, I was saying that the Funko craze was going to die, and it hasn't. And it's still quote unquote collectible. I've now accepted Funko trade-ins, and I will flip those Funkos to another collector and make some money off of that. So good on Funko. They're still going. They paid up the ass, I'm sure, for this next license, which was Seinfeld. They have retail exclusives through Target, through Walmart, through Amazon. I saw the official email from Funko to retailers, and they're like, it's not just these Funko. They're doing backpacks, they're doing pins, hats, t-shirts, and the t-shirts and hats have the Funko versions of Seinfeld on them. So it's not even like it's the logo of the show. It's got those characters, the picture of the figurine on there, and a whole fucking line of them. They just went all out on the merchandise for Seinfeld, considered by many to be one of the greatest sitcoms of all time, if not the greatest sitcom. And I was over the moon because this is great. I love Seinfeld. There's t-shirts and whatnot, but this is merch that I can carry in the store. I don't know how much of it I will actually sell, but honestly, if I sold Friends Pops okay, then I'm sure I'll do fine with Seinfeld.
Oh man, this Seinfeld and Larry David, they know how to get some money.
Yes, they do.
But, like the Pops, I think are going to sell, but who's trying to buy a pop on a t-shirt or a pop on a book bag? I don't know about those ancillary items. Like the Pops are going to go. The Pops are going to go. Like, man, you know how many people are going to cop that Kramer?
Yeah.
Kramer Pop, the George Pop, like that's going up. That's going up.
The one that was exclusive that I'm like, son of a bitch, I'm going to have to legitimately hunt this thing, is the Target one. It's the Kramer painting, and then it's got a little Kramer next to it, and it's a Funko recreation of the Kramer painting, and that's like a diorama Funko piece, and I'm like, shit, like that one is amazing. That's just a cool piece, and of course, Target got the exclusive. I knew one of them was going to get it, but that's one that I could have sold at the shop for a while. And that's one I'm going to have to try to track down.
Who got the Soup Chef?
So the Soup Nazi is open to everyone, thankfully. And that's one thing that one of the managers was saying in the emails. He's like, we can sell the Soup Nazi forever. Like that's
absolutely.
It's an iconic character.
I thought I was going to say who got the Soup Nazi, and you'd be like, oh, they didn't have that. And I was going to go like, what?
Yeah.
that would have been the first thing to pop out.
One of the things I've been seeing is they'll have like Newman in like a non-smiling and then a smiling, and that was like one of the exclusives, but the biggest one I saw was Kramer. And I don't know if Newman's going to do as well, but if they do a second line of these, I can see like Uncle Leo being in there, George's parents, George and Seinfeld's parents could be on there.
Yep.
Larry, even a Larry David version of, because he plays like background characters every now and again on that show, or he used to, that could be one that anyone would sell just because they're like, oh, it's fucking Larry David, I can just buy that one. It's a Seinfeld, he's got the different versions, the pirate shirt, iconic. The one that is missing, and this is one that one of the guys also mentioned, was where's the dancing Elaine, because that would have been another one, but I can see that being like a season 2.
I already know like all the iconic stuff. I'm surprised, like the Soup Nazi, I figured that's going to come out. If it's not out, that would be like the next thing up. But like Dancing Elaine, that's a really good one. They should have had that on day one. But I could see some of these being even limited runs. Oh, kind of like what we've been talking about, the whole collecting, maybe do, which I hate especially for you, like having those exclusives to the stores. But I could see some of those ended up going there.
I had to include it though because I love Seinfeld so much. It's still one I constantly rewatch. the Curb Your Enthusiasm. I know some people weren't able to make that transition over to it from Seinfeld to Curb, but it's made its own viewership and fan base too, because yeah, it's a very different show, but it's got similar humor where he'll find himself in a crazy circumstance just like the characters in Seinfeld, but he can do it all out on HBO, where it can involve sex workers or him, being thought of as a kid toucher. There was that one episode too.
Yeah.
And they can just, there's no limit to what he can do on HBO. And I'm glad that it's up to Larry where he's like, really? They're asking me to do another season? All right. And they just keep saying yes to whatever amount of money he asks for.
Yeah, it's incredible. I personally enjoy Curb over Seinfeld for that same reason. Basically, just the jokes go darker
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the time. So that's my bag. I love some dark humor, and I like the predicaments that Larry always ends up finding himself in. So that's my jam. But Seinfeld is a classic for sure. And as you said, like if fucking Friends can sell some fucking pops,
Mm-hmm.
that basic ass show can sell some pops. The Seinfeld should 100% be out of here. That shit should go to the moon.
I love that the Friends and Seinfeld fan bases are always at it, and because they're always fighting, and they're always on lists of top sitcom of all time, and it's always either Friends or it's Seinfeld or The Office, but The Office is not really up there as often as Seinfeld or Friends, and yeah, I rarely find anyone that likes both Friends and Seinfeld, or they intensely are fans of both. It's always one or the other. Friends is not my kind of show either, but Seinfeld definitely is. But on the other hand, like Kelly's parents, they love Friends, but they don't like Seinfeld. So it's a very different humor. Absolutely.
Definitely. And it's weird because they came out around the same time. So you would think, I guess it's like the opposite ends of the spectrum. You got your Seinfeld with that type of humor, and then you have like the more, traditional kind of humor,
Mm-hmm.
where, the gags, I tripped and fell, and, this person is mad at this person. Like that, I don't know. It wasn't really for me. I didn't really like Friends at all. And I'm not even the hugest Seinfeld fan. Like the classic episodes are classic. They're funny. They're hilarious. But a lot of those episodes, I kind of just like, there wasn't. I could find myself like watching it, maybe having one or two chuckles and then being like, man, that kind of was a dry episode.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So Seinfeld isn't the huge thing for me, but the classic episodes are classic. I've watched probably 10 episodes of Friends and just stared at my TV screen like, why do people like this show?
Yeah, way more episodes than I've seen. This new game announcement showed up on Discord. Everyone was I think hyped about it because I think we all grew up in a very similar generation of arcades and playing the Turtles, the Simpsons, those beat 'em up, Streets of Rage. Well, they're bringing that back in a way. Once again, I know they've tried to do this before on the DS, but this seems like it really caught everyone's attention, or at least the older gamers, with Shredder's Revenge. This is the spiritual successor to Turtles in Time, and apparently it does have the same developers behind it as Streets of Rage 4.
Yes, it's being developed right now by Dotemu, I believe that's how you pronounce it.
Okay.
Which they were the developers of Streets of Rage 4, which I've played, beat, incredible, beat 'em up. It takes a lot from like fighting game techniques. So you have like your invincibility frames. And I know they had that in the older Streets of Rage, but it's very more apparent like what's your invincible, what you can break out of your combo to then set up another combo. They kind of just let you go wild with the engine, and the graphics are great. Just everything looks hand-drawn. I'm not sure if it is hand-drawn, but everything looks hand-drawn, looks incredible, crisp on your TV. The colors pop, and it was just faithful to the game, just more updated. And they went back with Shredder's Revenge, and they made the art pixelated just like how we used to play it on the Super Nintendo or in the arcade. Me and you played some TMNT Turtles in Time in a barcade. So I'm super hyped for this. I know they're gonna do a good job just based on what they did with Streets of Rage 4. Shit, they even had in the trailer, they had April O'Neil kicking ass. They had Master Splinter as a character that maybe you could possibly play as. So I'm down for I'm down for it all.
That's amazing that Splinter, if he is playable, I want him to have better abilities than the turtles or some way to like really differentiate him from the other characters. And I'm sure they will, just like they did in the older arcade, where if you played as Donatello, you'd have a little bit longer range, and some of them were a little bit stronger than others. I think Raphael was stronger than the other turtles, so I'm sure they'll translate all of that as well into this new game.
I think that's what they were saying. I was reading up on it, and the developers were saying that all the different turtles are going to have different abilities. Now, I didn't know if they were just talking about the inherent, like, oh, I having the longer reach or the more damage, or one of them being faster than the others, or one of them being slower. So when I hear abilities, I feel like that means like maybe a special or something like that, which kind of makes it weird because in Turtles in Time, there weren't really any specials except for, you get the pizza and you spin around.
Right.
But nobody had like a super ability or anything like that. And that's what they put into Streets of Rage 4. Like each character had unique supers that if you got like a star power up on the floor, you pick it up. And then at any point in time, you could bust out your super that would do massive amounts of damage or pop the enemy in the air and give you a lot of damage and the ability to combo depending on who you were playing as. So I'm wondering if that's what they meant by the abilities, because like what kind of ability would April O'Neil have? Like what kind of ability, Master Splinter, he knows how to fight, but like what does April O'Neil know how to do? Is she gonna like pop out like a mic and like start whipping people with
it? Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's important for developers to do that with these older style games, though, where there's nostalgia where people like us can go back and we can play Turtles in Time and have fun. But to gamers today, if it's their first 2D Turtles experience, they were so limited back then in what they can do, so they made it work with the engines they had. But these days, you do have to kind of evolve the formula a little bit or add a little bit something more to add another layer of gameplay that will make it more interesting to gamers today, because I don't think I would ever see kids getting into the older arcade TMNT games and there being a resurgence of that. I think you would need to have something more complex or something that'll match today's games, even the simpler ones.
I used to think like that, but then you also remember that the most popular game right now is still Minecraft, and it looks like shit. It looks worse than TMNT. So like even with the simplicity of TMNT, where it's just a side-scrolling beat 'em up, enemies come out and you beat the shit out of them, compared to like something like Minecraft, where it looks simplistic but it's very vast. You can build a whole worlds, and people make the fucking Leaning Tower of Pisa in there.
Yeah.
but kids do like playing basic simple shit where you just smash them up. Like there's a reason why we enjoyed those games so much, and it's because you just pop on and play it. But the one reservation I do have, which I hope they do somehow find a way to fix, in Streets of Rage 4, it's a great game when you're playing co-op on your couch. I played it with my wife. The online is terrible. It's super laggy. It doesn't matter how good your connection is, how far or close the people that you're playing with are. The online is just absolutely terrible. It's almost, you definitely don't want to play 4-player online, but basic 2-player online is even pretty laggy. So hopefully they find a way to fix that, because in the trailer, there was like a zillion characters on the screen. Like they flood the screen with the foot ninjas, compared to something like Streets of Rage, where there's a decent amount of stuff going on, but it's a lot of enemies that tank hits. So they might have like 40 foot soldiers on the screen in TMNT, but in Streets of Rage, they'll probably have like 20 with like 3 or 4 dudes that can take like a whole 40 hit combo just to spice it up in there, or people that can that other characters that can have super attacks and bust through your attack while you're hitting them. So I would be definitely wary of the online play in this. Clearly, they have the 4-player co-op, couch co-op, which almost nobody does nowadays.
Yeah, that's true.
But hey, man, like if they can get the online working, and this is like my wish list for every multiplayer game: online, not laggy, crossplay where I can play with whoever. If they got it on the Switch, if they got it on PS5, doesn't matter where I'm playing or they're playing PC, whatever. On basic co-op games like this, that should be the standard.
That would be nice, and I think we're seeing more of that, especially now with Call of Duty and these AAA titles, and hopefully they're able to secure some of that cost or crossplay for Shredder's Revenge. It is set to come out this year, right?
They said soon. I don't know what
Okay.
soon means. And they didn't really want to put a release date on it. I know between the pandemic and I'm not sure where this developer is located, but between the pandemic and then what happened in Texas, a lot of developers pretty much lost like months of work between, doing the work from home thing, having all the teams separated, and then on top of that, not having power for a week or 2 weeks. A lot of things been going on. I think that was the reason why the Gotham Knights got pushed back. That was the reason why. Damn.
Oh, you're talking about Cyberpunk?
Yeah, Cyberpunk. That was Cyberpunk. They got pushed back because they got hacked and people stole all their information, and they were trying to deal with that, and that's why they pushed back their patch. But I want to say it was Borderlands 3. They had a DLC that was supposed to come out in March, but a lot of their workers actually work from home in Austin, and they pretty much couldn't get any work done for 2 weeks. So then they had to push the last DLC that they're working on out a whole extra month. So they can fix it up and make sure it's working when it launches.
Hopefully we'll know in the next month or two whenever this does release, but I think games especially have been doing especially well during the pandemic, and I noticed that a lot of gamers, they were out of work or people got back into video games because of the pandemic if they were working from home, and some of them have shifted to completely working from home as companies realize that maybe they don't need that office space and they can have people working remotely. So I think it's still a good thing for gaming overall, and I think the industry is very healthy, and TMNT will hopefully catch that, our generation, and also hopefully younger gamers too. If I get a chance to pick it up and play it, I think it'll be around the time. Even now, Leo kind of comprehends when I'm playing MLB The Show or Need for Speed. He can kind of watch, and I'll tell him, hey, press X, and he will do it. So, hopefully that'll come out at that perfect age where I can play some TMNT with him. This next story, though, you pulled up and you found, and I ended up researching it, but our fandoms are clashing, right? This is what you found on Polygon with the DC universe, the Snyderverse more specifically, and Halo.
Yeah, it was the unknown mashup that no one really thought of or knew until someone kind of pointed it out. And it's crazy because it's my fandom. It's my fandom with Halo, my favorite thing besides like Jets football. And then you got DC, which is your fandom, your favorite fandom. And then it even has Kelly's favorite fandom, which is fan fiction.
Yeah.
So basically what happened was there was this leaked image before the I guess I won't say it's a leak because it was in the trailer, but in the Justice League, Snyder Cut Justice League, Deathstroke has a Halo emblem on the hilt of his sword. So when this came out and the images showed, people even hit the actor and was like, "Hey, man, the League of Assassins, right? Is it?
Yeah, League of Assassins.
That's the League of Assassins logo." And the actor responded saying, "Oh yeah, 100%. That's exactly what it is." But then the guy that used to work for 343, he came out and said, "Man, why did my multiplayer logo from Halo end up in a Snyder Cut film? Like, what is going on?" Some journalists at Polygon kind of did the science, went and deep dived, And it comes to find out when you Google search the League of Assassins logo, it pops up with that Halo logo. And the purpose of that is because some guy that was huge into Halo and writes fan fiction for Halo and all different kinds of stuff is also a huge DC fan, and he writes fan fiction for DC. And he used the Halo multiplayer, one of the Halo multiplayer logos, in his fan fiction. So they linked that Halo logo to the League of Assassins fan fiction that he created. And I guess when whoever was trying to find the logo to put it on the hilt, they just Googled it and was like, "Yep, that's the logo."
First result.
The logo. Boom, because it pops up first. It was the first thing you see, and they're like, "Yep, that's it," and slapped it up on the hilt.
It's amazing to me how they, the resources they have in hand. No one went, okay, why don't we reach out to editorial and see if what the League of Assassins symbol is. They kind of took it on faith of, okay, well, this guy knows what he's doing and we're going to put it on there. You haven't seen the Snyder Cut, that you don't see that symbol on screen. And it's not a screen used logo, but it is on the costume itself. And if you go to the Dallas exhibit, and Neil was just there, you can see that Halo symbol on the sword itself. And I don't know if there could be any legal, I'm sure there is. There's no way they can use that. They can't put it on screen, and I don't know if they can really have it on the costume, could they?
To be honest, I want to say no, but it's not like it's like 80 or maybe even 90% of how it looks on Halo. They kind of like shifted it a little bit. Like they kind of turned it like counterclockwise just a tad. So they might get away with it. But also, that's not really a logo that's currently used in any Halo titles. It's from a Halo title that was made by Bungie, which they currently don't work on Halo at all. So I guess technically that logo would be owned by Microsoft, but I don't think Microsoft would care about a logo in a game that's not going to appear in any other games in the future. And it's not something that they would like print on a t-shirt or anything like that, because it's one of those things where, I don't know, in Call of Duty, for example, this, which is weird. It's kind of funny because Halo and Call of Duty kind of came up with this at around the same time. Halo 2 had them where you had the player cards, where you could click on someone's player card and you can look at how they customized their Master Chief or whatever Spartan they were using. And I know Call of Duty did the same thing, where you could have all these different kind of logos and backgrounds and sayings. Mm-hmm. When you kill somebody, your logo, your player card would pop up and it would show your logo and everything. And nowadays they let you do like custom ones. So you like kill somebody, or it's you get killed by somebody and it'll be like mad N-words, just mad N-words.
Bart Simpson.
Like a penis.
Yep.
A penis going into an asshole or whatever. Nazi symbols, all different kinds of crazy shit. But in Halo, there's no custom. The only thing you can do is pick a subset of different kinds of logos, and then you can change the colors. So it was one of like 100 logos in a game that, yeah, you can buy it now. You can buy the game now, but it's just like a remaster of the old game. And I don't think Microsoft cares. Like, if they put that shit out, they wouldn't give a fuck. I don't think.
I still love the argument I saw on Twitter of people like, well, Joe Manganiello is a huge gamer, so that makes sense. And it's like, he didn't design it, though. That has nothing to do with anything. It's not like he went, oh, you know what? That is the Halo logo. That's fine, though. We can use it. It was a mistake by an artist who didn't do a little bit of more research when he was trying to come up with it. And I don't know if it was just a quick thing, like, that'll be a cool Easter egg. Let me put that on there. That's probably what it was, because you don't see it. Again, you don't see it on screen. But it's something that if you're seeing the costume, it's a cool Easter egg. If they do an art book for the Snyder Cut, which I'm sure they will, that would have been a cool thing to include in there. Like, in the details of Deathstroke's costume, you can find this. So I'm guessing that's all it came down to. I doubt we'll see. It's cool to know that that Ra's al Ghul does exist in Deathstroke's world in the Snyderverse, but I doubt we'll get a Ra's al Ghul background story in Deathstroke scenes where you'll see that symbol on giant flags, and I don't think we're going to get any of that. So that was a cool thing, though, where fan fiction, Halo, and the DC universe all have a connection here.
Yeah. It was just funny that some guy that made Halo fan fiction also made DC fan fiction, and he was just like, these logos look kind of the same, but not really. I'm gonna just use this for this.
Yeah.
That's the funny part about it, and just the back and forth on Twitter. Like, yeah, man, that's yeah, that's definitely the League of Assassins logo. Like, yeah, man, the Ra's al Ghul, all that stuff is in the Snyderverse, and it makes me wonder. As that's why I think I agree with you how you said, oh, it was just a fast, quick thing that they were just trying to put on as an Easter egg. Because didn't Zack Snyder have like an actual comic book artist like doing stuff and working on the movie with him? Like,
Yes.
didn't he have someone like drawing like storybooks and stuff like that?
Yeah, he had his regular animator, Jay Oliva, who worked with him before on BVS and Man of Steel, I believe, but he also did a bunch of the animated movies like The Dark Knight Returns. So he worked with him on the storyboards, but then Jim Lee did the Justice League 2 and 3 storyboards that aren't happening in that same manner. And he's great friends with Jim, who is one of the heads at DC Comics right now. So Jim would be someone that he could have consulted for that, but I mean, he's so busy. I don't see him at all being bothered with costume design questions. I can see how that could have slipped by.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, yeah, just slap that on there. Like, if you Googled it and that was popped up first, like that's gotta be it. I don't need to check in, and and they were working on a tight timeline anyway, so. Maybe, it's not even going to be in the movie. Toss it on as an Easter egg, and let's keep it moving.
Exactly. The final thing we have this week, it is a spoiler-free discussion about the Snyder Cut. You and I have both seen it, and even though we're going to be kind of tiptoeing around specific plot points, we're not going to reveal the characters that might show up in the epilogue or anything like that. We're just kind of give very general thoughts about the movie itself. And then next week when Spoon Sandwich is on, I think that'll give everyone at that point a week and a half to 2 weeks, depending on when you hear next week's episode, to watch the 4-hour Snyder Cut and then decide from there if you want to hear the full-on, more detailed spoiler discussion about the movie. But there's no way I can't not talk about it this week, and so in case you even don't want to hear spoiler-free thoughts, because I know some people are like, I want to go into the movie fresh without hearing someone else's opinion. I totally get it. This is the final news story or topic that we're going to cover this week, so thank you so much. We'll see you next week. But otherwise, Macio, let's hear your thoughts and impressions on the mythical ones people were saying does not exist. It's not real. Now it's in the computer in our pockets. It's accessed. You can watch 4 hours of it, and it's finally here after 3.5 years, almost 4 years. What were your thoughts on the Snyder Cut?
I enjoyed the movie. To me, it was very good. I will say I'm going to start off with this. I didn't watch Man of Steel, and I only caught probably 30 or 40 minutes of Batman versus Superman. I was at a hotel trying to watch something on TV, flicked across HBO, and it was playing BVS, and I was like, oh man, I never watched this, whatever. And it just so happened to be like right before the scene with Martha, the infamous Martha scene. Mm-hmm. And that I watched from there until basically when Superman stabs Doomsday.
Okay, cool.
So that's pretty much all I caught of BVS. So when the movie starts, they're kind of breaking down what happens at the end of BVS. From that point, I thought I was going into it saying, man, I'm not even going to be able to talk about it on the podcast with Dan, because there's no way I'm going to finish a 4-hour movie. I go to sleep at 11, and it was already 9:30 when I started the movie. I'm like, man, there's no way I'm going to watch it. And then it was 1:30 in the morning, and I was like, damn, that was a good fucking movie. Like, I watched the whole thing. I wanted to know what was going to happen. I wanted to know how they were going to try to defeat
Steppenwolf.
Steppenwolf and stop Darkseid, or maybe not stop Darkseid. I don't know. I just wanted to know how it was going to go, how the story was going to progress. The movie had a ton of heart, and there were some things that I didn't like some of that CGI. That, as we said just a couple minutes ago, they did not have they were on a quick timeline, so some things they kind of washed over to get those most important details correct. Because man, like the CGI on Steppenwolf looked incredible. Like you could have told me that was an animatronic, and I would have believed you. It looked that good.
Yeah.
So the acting was so-so. There were some people that were really good. There were some people that were not so hot. Looking at you, Amber Heard. But Jesus Christ. Like anytime she was on the screen, it was like, are they pulling her? Like, was she here against her will? Like, did Johnny? No. But like, it was really good, man. Like, I don't see how what was the problem? Like, was it just the length? Was it the grim darkness of it? Because I enjoyed the fact that it was R-rated. And people were actually like, there were consequences to going up against Wonder Woman, going up against Aquaman. Like, these aren't people that you just, they're not Batman, even though Batman can't kill you. And we've seen him kill.
Yeah.
But like, no, like there's a difference between Batman beating the shit out of you or slamming a fucking table across your head and then you die. And fucking Wonder Woman literally just punching you in your chest and you're just done. Like, that's it. Or like what we saw in the trailer with Steppenwolf just absolutely destroying the fucking Amazonians. Like, that type of shit we needed the R rating for, because when you watch these superhero movies, they act like they're not superheroes. Like, if they're fighting otherworldly beings, they're going to kill them. They're not just going to knock them out, or they're not going to just sling a car at them. Like, they're chopping heads off. So I enjoyed that part of the movie as well.
You brought up a good question of why was the rumor was that it was deemed quote unquote unwatchable when it was screened to execs and other filmmakers. You know, one of the weird things that they did you watch Justice League? For like, do you know, had you ever seen that one?
No, I've never watched it.
The difference is here, after, you know, it's been a while since I'd seen that, and I've seen it twice, once in theaters and then once on HBO Max. But the differences as to what they cut out and what they put in there as far as a theatrical run, they obviously wanted it to not be 3 hours. That way they can have more screenings in theaters, and they rushed it out before those bonuses for the year so that all the execs could get their payout. And that's when they brought on someone who has experience with shorter superhero movies that are just there to be popcorn flicks. And that's when they brought on Joss Whedon. But the problem with the approach that Joss and Jeff had is the people that they cut out, a majority of the people that they cut out were minority characters. And all of Cyborg's backstory was completely left out in the theatrical version. Ryan Choi is non-existent in the theatrical version of the film. And there is, as Zach has said, Cyborg is the heart of his film, and you don't see that at all in the theatrical cut. You feel that in this movie. He has such a massive impact on the heroes. I think his story is the most compelling out of all of them when you're watching this movie. And I don't know if it's because you can just relate to the character more, or he went through. They really take their time in showing you the pain and uprise that he goes through. They take their time in showing you all of that, and I thought that was great. But all of that was gone in the theatrical run. So I'm kind of, you know, I was also confused as to why couldn't they take the Snyder Cut and maybe cut that down to 2 hours? Why did they have to rewrite and remove these minority characters and instead focus on more jokes between the characters, and even rewriting Aquaman and Flash into being a like jock character going up against the little brother? It was really bizarre in the theatrical cut. And then them being bumbling idiots as when they're trying to be a team. But in this, they are a well-working machine. They each have an interest in being a part of this. They have their their moments of doubt, but Batman is there to lead them through. And each character does have their moment of, well, I'm going to do what it takes to make sure that we save the world. And you can only see it as almost a sabotage when you compare the two films, and it's really bizarre.
Yeah, and the things from what I've heard that got cut are like weird. Like, I don't really consider this spoilers. It's very in the beginning of the movie. When the Amazonians are trying to protect the mother box, and I don't know what happens in the Justice League version, but in Zack Snyder's version, a black Amazonian walks up to the box to see what's going on, and it's like front and center. Or like you said, Ryan Choi.
Yeah.
Him being is an Asian character. He's working with Cyborg's father, who's a black character. Like, there's so many different instances, and even like the smallest little characters that end up popping in a movie end up being some form of minority, and they have heavy hitting emotional scenes.
Yes.
So it's kind of weird that got cut out just to put a joke here, a funny quip there, somebody falling on top of themselves. When in Zach's cut, there's a decent amount of jokes between Flash, a kind of a jokey joke here with Batman. It's not like ha 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 hilarious, but it's like, oh, okay. Like you get a little quick chuckle. It's kind of funny that those differences, which to me made the movie great, putting that emotion into it, giving that heart to the movie, where it's not just straight up action. When they could have easily, with Justice League's version, they could have left some of the heart and just put more action. If that was the case, why not just make it more action? Just put more action. Is that too cost effective because you got to do all the CGI? Did Joss not have enough, I don't know, confidence in himself to be able to put together the movie? Because this is the thing how I felt about the whole Justice League situation, where he comes out with a movie that, for the most part, the critics pan it, the audience pans it, they think it sucked, and he can just wipe his hand and say, well, it wasn't really my movie. And it's like, like, wait a minute. If I go to you, Dan, and I say, hey man, can you make me some guacamole? And then I hand you a fucking bag of lettuce, and you're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? And I was like, you're going to make me some guacamole with this bag of lettuce. And you're like, all right, cool. I'm going to make this guacamole with this bag of lettuce. And then I take your guacamole, your lettuce guacamole, and eat it and say it tastes like shit. You can't go, well, yo, man, like I only had a bag of lettuce. No, you said you can do it.
Right. You agreed to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, you agreed to do it. You told me you could do it. If you thought that this bag of lettuce couldn't make that fucking guacamole, you should have just told me, yo, man, this ain't it. Like, I ain't doing this. He didn't have to. There was some incentive for him, whether it was, hey, you finish this cut and you get to do Batgirl, or you finish this cut and we're going to give you 3 movies. Like, whatever the incentive was, he felt it was more than whatever he was going to put out with the Justice League. So he did what he needed to do to the movie and made a shit movie. Meanwhile, whatever Zach wanted to do was a good movie. I don't care about all the whole like MCU versus DC, whatever garbage. Like it was just a good movie. Music, great, like amazing score, framed well, shot well, good CGI mixed in with some bad stuff. But I mean, he had a time frame that he had to flip it and put it out, and he did it. Like I don't know what else he would want without having to go deep into the spoilers and
No, I'm with you there. I think the negative thing that I would say also is like there's 1 or 2 scenes where the CGI took me out of it, and it wasn't Steppenwolf, like you said. It was the way the light shined off of each individual. It was just incredible the way they pulled off Steppenwolf, who was a more complicated model. And Zach was like, no, I still want to use that Steppenwolf that we hinted at in BVS, so we're going to make it happen here. And they did. But yeah, there were a couple of scenes where it's like, okay, I know that was additional photography because I follow this, I followed this for years. And it's like, okay, so now I see why that character probably definitely could have used more polish, and but that's the worst I can say about the film itself. A couple scenes where I'm like, okay, that could have used a little bit more time. The story, as you mentioned, serves the characters so well, and I know people kept saying, and they still say it, where they each should have had their own movie before this team up movie. But you watch this cut, and each character has their story told in a way where I'm like, this all works together and it fits well and they team up well. And I don't feel like anyone got shorthanded in any way. All the characters that were introduced for the first time here, they take their time in telling their backstory. And I think one of the successes of that is when Zach works with actors, he worked with Ray Fisher in formulating Cyborg's story. He sat down and they both cranked out the story, and they're like, all right, this works. This is great. And he felt like he was playing a character that he also wrote and that he related to. He was talking about that on Twitter, that he grew up with a father that wasn't there. So he was able to use some of that in the story that he portrayed with Cyborg. And when he worked with Jeff Johns and Joss Whedon later, they did not want to hear any input at all from him or any of the other actors when it came to handling these characters. Famously, he didn't want to say "booyah" in the theatrical cut. He didn't want to say the line, and he kept fighting on it because he viewed it as a stereotype of black characters where they have their phrase, they have their thing, and he didn't want to be a part of that. And they kept saying, no, you have to say it though, because that's what they say in the cartoons. That's what Cyborg says in the cartoons. And they didn't care about how he felt or what input he had. And I think that's the difference when you work with someone like Zack Snyder. And it's not we were just talking about Deathstroke, his look in the film was one that Joe Manganiello said, when I pictured Deathstroke in that particular scene, I think he should look like this. And Zack was like, yeah, let's use that. Why don't we do that? And that's just it's a collaboration. It's not okay, well, we're going to do it this way only, and that's it. That's the Kevin Feige method of you got to follow this blueprint. And Zach's, it's more, okay, well, let's talk about this character and let's make it work. So that's why it benefited so much in these characters like Cyborg, like Deathstroke, and all the others in the film. And I know Ben Affleck, of course, brought on his guy, Chris Terrio, to work on this script with Zach too. So I think it was a very successful collaboration for sure.
Suits don't make movies.
No.
They fund them. Let the creatives make the movie. So when you have Suits and focus groups making your movies, like, it's never going to come out good. It's never going to be one thing. It's not going to have one shared vision. It's always going to be a mashup of a whole bunch of thoughts. And that's not what you want. You want something that's one sweet collective vision. Him going to the actors and the actresses and saying, what do you think about this? That speaks volumes to the type of person he is, but it also speaks volumes to the actors to say that I can go to him and say, this line should have come out like this. Like, that's going to make me think that's going to be cheesy, or this story should kind of mold like this because this sounds more realistic. It sounds more emotional. And he takes that into consideration and goes, that fits well with the story. It makes sense.
It does. And I think if you haven't seen the movie, kind of keep that in the back of your mind as you watch these characters' stories unfold throughout the entire film and the different journeys that they each go through, the different obstacles that they each go over, and the growth that every member of the Justice League makes by the end of the film, which we don't see in the theatrical cut. So I mean, just my overall thoughts, just kind of finishing it off without the spoilers and going into like the fanboy moments, because I want to save that for anyone that hasn't seen the film. Enjoy it, as I did. But for me, it kind of felt like I was at the end of a finish line in a way, because it's like, okay, here it is, the thing that we've been looking for years. But it also felt like it's the start of something, because it's like, I don't feel like I can rest on, okay, well, we got it. This is great. I'm happy. And I'm ecstatic for Zach, the crew, Deborah, the actors, everyone that was mistreated in the reshoots of Justice League, and everyone that was cut out of the movie, including the waitress. That's all I'll say about it. But she was on Twitter like, am I in this version of the movie, because I know I was cut out, and everyone's like, your role was huge for what it said about Cyborg's power. Like, that was incredible. You were great. And it like, all of that aside, like, it was, as I've been saying for months, this isn't a movie for critics. I don't care what and people were saying, look, it's got a positive tomato. I'm like, I don't care. I still don't care on what the critics are saying about it, because this is a movie about doing right with the actors, with Zach, with his family, with all his friends, and with the fans. And we got that. That's what's important. So now I just feel like I can enjoy it. I can watch it as many times as I'd like. I can really do some deep dives into how it connects into Man of Steel and BVS, but all of that stuff to me is still a backseat to, okay, can we get more out of this? What does Zach want? What do will they come back? And what does HBO see in all of this? Because if we stop and rest as a fan base on, okay, well, we got it, cool. No, we're not going to get more out of this. We need to show AT&T and HBO Max that there is a future. There's more money to be made. We will buy the merch. We will, continue. It's been trending every day for a week before the movie came out. So it's like the work doesn't stop. It continues until Zach tells us to stop. So that's kind of how I feel right now. It's not like I'm elated. It's not like I'm completely joyous of here it is. It still feels to me like the fight continues, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I can see how you would feel that way, because this is what you always wanted to see originally. Like, this was what you wanted to see. It's unfortunate because this movie was supposed to set up other movies. This was supposed to set up Aquaman. So, like, seeing that end of Justice League and it leading into like Aquaman, but I already know what happened in Aquaman because I watched that.
Right.
So it sucks that we didn't get to see that all encapsulated 4 or 5 years ago, however long it was ago. I don't care too much if we get that follow up to Justice League, like a Justice League 2, Snyder Cut Justice League 2, but it sucks that we might not get Flash and Cyborg together, because you can see in the movie them building that rapport that would have led into a movie with Cyborg or Flash hopping in a Cyborg movie or Cyborg being in a Flash movie. You see those missing links that we might not get, like, because of what happened with the Justice League. Ray Fisher might not ever see a DC movie. Like, he might not ever get in one unless HBO Max steps in and says, you're not dealing with WB anymore. You're dealing with Zach and you're dealing with us. We got you. Like, what are the chances that's going to happen? Like, I hope in the future that he gets any kind of work, period, because he actually did very well in the movie. So yes. I would want to see him in other movies. Like, we get plenty of movies with Michael B. Jordan. Like, let Ray Fisher get some roles.
Yeah, there are
like,
more.
I would definitely see him in something else for sure.
Exactly, where there's more actors of color than the ones that we just see in those star roles, like Fantastic Four. You were mentioning Michael B. Jordan, and Ray Fisher is an amazing addition to all of that, and his role in this was absolutely incredible. It's very moving. You had mentioned the future of the Flash film, and that's one that us as a fan base, we're like, look, and some people are like, well, that's unfair to the director, that's unfair to Ezra Miller, and it's like, well, think about Ray Fisher, think about what the original Flashpoint movie could have been, and if we're able to change that and maybe make it an HBO production so that Ray does feel like, okay, I can work on this again, then if there's a chance of that happening, then we have to fight for that to happen. And I am happy that other actors have come forward to support Ray, like the Buffy cast came forward. And I think, I hope that, and it sucks that had to happen for Ray I think that for other studios or whatever to feel like, okay, maybe we can work with Ray again. He's not completely ostracized from the industry or whatever. But I don't think that was Ray's goal anyway. He has said before, if I don't work again, so be it. This is more important we need to let the people that worked on this production, that behaved in this way, need to be held accountable. And it doesn't stop with just Joss Whedon and Jeff Johns. It goes all the way up to Walter Hamada. So I think he sees the bigger picture, and he sees that there are things more important than a role, and as important as that would be for him and life-changing as it is. And I'm glad that the fan base is there to hear that story and support him as well. I know that in the additional photography, I feel like, without spoiling it, Zach, the actors that were there are probably ones that would agree to being in a Justice League 2 or 3. I think it was a very deliberate choice of characters and actors that returned for the additional photography that would work with Zach in those sequels. And I don't know if you got that same kind of impression by, okay, I see why they chose that. And even though we didn't see him in this, or, throughout the movie, like we know the Joker, he's in the trailers. I feel like Jared Leto, who has since said, like Ben Affleck, I would have returned for that photography without even pay, because that's, I want to be there for Zach. So I think we'll get more of, if we get Justice League 2, we'll get more Cyborg. And I'm glad that Ray will at least, hopefully, if we continue to push for it, be in that film.
Yeah, I would want to know a lot of things after this. How well the movie did. Is that going to push them? Because I know, like, it had HBO Max like completely shut down for hours at a time.
Yeah.
In the very beginning when it first came out, it was front and center, all on the HBO Max screen. Like, I can't imagine that this does worse than like the Godzilla movie,
right?
Or some of those other movies that were out that went straight to HBO Max that were supposed to be. Remember, those were supposed to be theater movies. This wasn't even supposed to see a theater. Even if theaters were open, it might have been like a select theater type of deal where it's just only in IMAX and like one theater in each city or something like that. So to see a movie that's basically was made for streaming, make it and do crazy numbers, which you could tell just by off the tweets, like so many people that I know that didn't even care about the Snyder Cut. Like my buddy Brad that I retweeted today, he was on Twitter, like he'd been telling me for months, years, like, man, that whole Snyder Cut shit, like that, they need to just drop it. Like, I'm tired of hearing it. And then when it finally got like a release date, he was like, man, I'm just glad it got a release so people can shut up about it. Like, so I don't have to keep hearing about it or seeing it. And he watched it and he said that it was fire. He said it was fire, man. Like, he was live tweeting like, damn, Wonder Woman's doing this. And oh man, Batman did that. And he was into it. And at the end, I was like, yo, how'd you like it? He was like, that shit was fire, man. Like, why didn't this release the first time? Even as maybe not a 4-hour film, but I'm sure Zach could have got this down to like 240.
Well, that was the 214 thing that he was talking about, where he had that 214-minute cut that was the compromised version of, if they had let him finish the reshoots, that's the version we would have gotten. So in a way, we're never going to see that Snyder Cut, but we got something better in the end.
Yeah, definitely. Like that was a whole, like, it felt like a 2-part movie that was just one long movie, and it just flowed. At no point did I feel like, man, I'm getting, well, actually there was a couple of points where I was like, and they kind of wasted, they could have cut this a little bit short, but not like minutes at a time, more like a couple of seconds here, shave off a couple seconds here. Maybe this person doesn't need to be on screen for like 5 seconds. Maybe they could have just been 1 second. Like, I don't think this is too much of a spoiler, but when the girl picks, and I understand what the symbolism is behind it, but when she picks up the sweater and sniffs it and continues to sing, like that could have been a little bit shorter. It didn't have to go on for so long, but I understood why, and the symbolism, and the music was really good. So it's certain things they could have cut here and there to chop the cut down, but what we got instead was just a long 4-hour epic that just went by. The 4 hours just went by.
Yeah, it was well paced, I think, because every sequence, every part, because it's broken up into 6 parts, I think, plus the epilogue. Zach said that each one has an action sequence in it, so it continues it moving, and each part too isn't like exactly the same amount. You get 30 minutes here, and then this part is 40 minutes, and then this part is a little over an hour. So I think by making it different lengths, it also helps 4 hours go by. Like, it is a chunk of time, but you look up and you're like, oh shit, like my God, like it's been 4 hours and you don't feel it like you would a 2 hour or 3 hour film, which was really interesting. And I think the title cards really helped that.
I would say if you were like, oh man, I'm gonna put this on, I got like 2 hours before I gotta do something, I would definitely say not to put it on, because you're gonna watch all 4 hours. You're gonna put it on thinking that you got like, oh, I got an hour, I'll watch this and finish it up. And you're gonna miss whatever you were supposed to do because you're gonna watch the whole thing through. Like you're not gonna want to stop because you're gonna want to know what's coming up next. How does Cyborg deal with this? How does Flash connect to the Justice League? When does Aquaman come in? Like you're gonna want to continue to know what's going on, and you're gonna just be like, whoa, like I'm 3 hours in. Like how did I get to the point where I'm almost done with the movie? I was supposed to go catch brunch with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say, just if you're gonna watch it, don't try to watch it in parts, because you're just gonna watch the whole thing straight through.
I'm really happy to hear that the general audience seems to be accepting it and that they're excited for the future of the Snyderverse. As I mentioned, though, next week it's going to be all details, spoilers, this character, that character. And so tune in next week for more of the Snyder Cut, and especially throughout the next couple of months too, because I'm going to have guests on like Vega, Manu. I'm excited to have him back on. I think it's been a few years since I've had him on, and he's been very instrumental in making this movie happen. And I know he's very busy too, and doing what he's been doing for maybe the future of the Snyderverse. I'm not sure, but and the other podcasts and whatnot that he works on. So there'll be a lot more discussion from other voices other than myself about the cut that I definitely want to deep dive in with. So anything else otherwise about the Snyder Cut or any of the stories before we wrap up, Macio?
Was there like, because I didn't watch any of the lead up movies into this, but was there enough for the fans of the Snyderverse, the Easter eggs, the callbacks? Was there enough for you guys where you guys felt like, man, this is what like Zack actually got his vision to our screens?
I think there was, because we got to see the different versions of the scenes and how it was supposed to play out. I know I had an expectation about a certain character showing up because Zack had talked about that character showing up in different Vero posts, and how he's like, okay, that's in the theatrical cut that people have shown the screenshots of, but that's not my character in my version, and that character never showed up. So that's the one expectation I did have that never happened. But I've since learned that Warner Brothers, even though apparently they did film it with an actor, Warner Brothers wouldn't let Zack use that character because they supposedly had other plans for that character in a TV series or a movie. And, in 2021, things work differently where you can use the same characters in different properties, and that's fine. But back when he was filming it and back when he was doing this cut, he wasn't allowed to use it. So that's when they swapped out that character for someone else in the movie. But that's the one thing that I was a little disappointed about. But now that I know why, it's like, okay, I get it. I understand why that didn't happen. So, but yeah, the Easter eggs were great. We saw way more of Darkseid than I expected. So that was a huge positive. We saw way more of the nightmare sequence than we expected. The history lesson was incredible. It was long and it wasn't just a 2-minute thing, and seeing all of the different armies throughout the world, and then the mythical armies also on top of that was amazing. So,
and I have a very small beef with the history lesson that I can't get into because it's spoiler, but man,
okay.
I can't say it. But it's a small beef, nothing bad. It's just like they did dude dirty, man. They did him dirty. He didn't have to. And I think you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, hang on to that thought. We'll have it in the post little credits thing that we do here. That'll be our discussion for after the closing theme song.
All right, cool.
Awesome. So everyone else, otherwise, thank you so much for joining us this week as we went through this sector and talked a lot of Snyder Cut, but also video game and comic book news. It was a good variety of topics this week. Macio, I want to give you a massive thank you for not just helping with the co-host this week and in future episodes, but for helping out in the past. That's been a huge thing that I've really appreciated, because I enjoy doing this. I like putting out these episodes, and it's not possible without another co-host. So, this episode doesn't exist without you. So thank you so much, Macio.
I appreciate it. Anytime if you need me to come on, or we could chop it up. I know E3 ain't happening, but game news is always going on, and I like to also give my my little 2 cents here and there on a movie or a comic book thing here and there. So anytime you want me on, I'm here, and hopefully vaccines are coming out and all that stuff. We'll be able to get a mountain melt, some drinks, and watch a fight.
Yes, some UFC. Cannot wait for that day. So thank you all so much once again for tuning in. The one call out I will do is, if you can tell a friend about the podcast, someone that you think might enjoy the Snyder discussions or the Halo talk or the TMNT game that's coming out, let them know, point them on over to thereasonsimbroke.com. You will find the link on everywhere you can find them. Macio, where can everyone contact you or follow you?
Twitter @MacTheMurderer. Hit me up. We could chop it up, talk some shit. And while you're on thereasonsimbroke.com, get some merch, man. Like I got the Joaquin Joker shirt that Dan made. Really dope. Every time I wear it, people say, man, oh shit, that's a nice shirt, man. That's a nice Joker shirt. So definitely hop on there. They got some cool designs.
Thanks, man. Thank you very much. There will be a link also to Macio's Twitter on the description of today's episode. So in case you're driving or anything, when you get home, swipe on over to the description. You will find it right on there. Otherwise, Broke at Core, thank you once again, and all will be well.
Peace out.
All right, spoiler discussion here on what Macio wanted to. Who was it? The Green Lantern?
Yeah, man. Like he was the only one that really got killed.
Yeah, that's
out of the big 5. Like he was the only one, and he axed him up quick.
Yeah,
just immediately chopped his arm off, killed him, and then the ring just gone, and we don't see any Green Lanterns for the rest of the show, or the rest of the movie.
No, and
I was like, damn.
He got tackled by parademons. Like he fell off the sky by a couple of parademons, and that's when Ux's Darkseid immediately descended on him, arm chopped off. That wasn't a theatrical cut. And yeah, he gets killed in Justice League, but here he gets his arm is gone.
Yeah.
When Darkseid is reaching, he was cool. He was really cool. And I thought it was interesting that they didn't have him make constructs in his version of the movie. He was firing beams, which hurt Darkseid. But in the theatrical one, they made him make a hammer and another weapon at one point. But in this one, you see a close up of him. You see what he really looks like, this alien. And you're right.
That's what killed me, because he looked dope. The costume was dope. The CGI was really good. And then he immediately gets slapped up by some parademons. Even Batman was fucking up the parademons.
Yeah.
He's got a Green Lantern ring, and he gets tackled out the sky and immediately destroyed. Meanwhile, come on, Ares, Killer, Thor,
Zeus.
All of those. That's a Thor. Zeus lit his ass up. Everybody else seemed to be holding their own, and then Green Lantern just boom out of there. Literally, I think we got maybe 15 seconds of Green Lantern. I was like, damn, man. And then we don't even see where the fucking ring, who gets the ring.
Right. Yeah.
That was I was expecting that was going to come back, because I'm like, they specifically made sure to show us the ring zip off into the sky. So I'm like, oh, we're going to see who got the ring, and then doesn't even come back.
No. And Darkseid tries to grab it, which doesn't happen in the theatrical one either. I'm like, shit, he better not grab it.
Yeah, that would have been dope. That would have been dope. Even if he got his hand on it, and then but just to reach out, just for him to know, yo, I need to get this. Mm-hmm. But then they instantly stopped him.
Yeah,
there's little things like that. That's why I like the movie.
Yeah. That was the okay. So since we are in spoiler territory, the other Green Lantern we see in this is the dead, the body of Kilowog in that Nightmare flash forward when
Yeah,
they have the, and you see a Kilowog. So you see two dead Green Lanterns in the movie.
yeah. Like they just did the Green Lanterns dirty. Or like the when Darkseid hit him with the what is it, the Omega Beam?
Yes.
It just like, man, that shit was nasty.
Yeah. Then
I just like that, all those kind of action scenes where they make the superhero or the villain like real. You can see the damage that they can do.
actual threats. There's weight to all
Yeah,
these actions.